Kia ora Year 11 and 12. This video is for my Level 2 class for May the 23rd, the lesson that I'm going to be away for. And this is all about how to get the equation from the graph of a hyperbola. So it assumes that you know a little bit about hyperbolae already. If you need a slower video, I've made a really old one 3 years ago. I think it's called Level 2 Graphing Hyperbolae. It's 17 minutes long. It's extra boring, but it is quite nice at going through the basic stuff about asymptotes and what they are and so on. The sound quality is not great on it though. The other thing, just before you say when is she going to get started, is that after you've watched this video, I want you to do this exercise in theta. There's one little problem with it though, which is that often you're given graphs and it's quite hard to spot the blobby points. So I'm going to put a few clues up on Google Classroom. So if you are doing this in my class this year, go have a look on Google Classroom for the notes that go with the exercise. And lastly, if this video is too slow, just go right ahead and get on with the theta work, okay? No one has to watch this. Right, what I'm going to do is go through a bunch of graphs and think about how we can find the equation. So I'm starting with the two most basic types. This is a hyperbola, and you can see on here that you've got asymptotes that are along the axes. And when that's the case, we don't usually bother to draw them in with a dotted line. So that tells me that the format or the form of this equation is y is equal to k over x, right? Because the number that I can't put in here is 0. So I can't put in x of 0, and that's why I've got the dotted line, the asymptote there. And it's also impossible to put any value of x in that will give me y equals 0, right? So I can't get y equals 0 from this. And that's why I've got this asymptote through here. So this is the basic form. I also know that if my hyperbola is in this quadrant and this one, then k is going to be positive. So what I'm going to do now is use a blobby point to figure out the equation of the line. So let's just get rid of the mess. We'll go back and we'll have a look at what point can I find. Right, well, the easiest one is this one here. So this is 2, 1. So you're going to get very used to this, I hope. We take that point and we substitute in the y and we substitute in the x. Here we get 1 is equal to k divided by 2, which gives me 2 equals k. So that means that the equation of this graph is very simply y equals 2 divided by x. Now another nice way to think about that, this is my standard way to write it up, is that I can think of it as x times y is equal to 2. And I can check that any point on that curve has coordinates that times together to give me 2. So you can see we've got 2 and 1 there. Here it looks like we've got 4 and 1/2. Over here we've got negative 2 times negative 1, right, which gives me 2. So that's the first one done. Now, not surprisingly, the next graph I've done is the other way around. So you can see we've got a branch of the hyperbola here and a branch of the hyperbola here. The asymptotes are still the axes. So that tells me that my form is going to be y equals k over x. And now I need to find a point and figure out what k is. Right, so let's look for a nice point that we can use. So this one is actually a wee bit harder because the way GeoGebra has drawn this, we can't see exactly what that point is. Right, and this is exactly how the theta question goes, where you can't really be sure that that point is 3, negative 1, right? But I'm going to tell you now that that's one of my blobby points, and this one is the other one. So this is negative 1 and 3. Right, so substituting that in, let's use this one, we get 3 is equal to k over negative 1, which gives me negative 3 equals k. So the equation of this hyperbola is y equals negative 3 over x. Okay, hopefully so far so good. We've got no vertical shift and no horizontal shift. So just one more time, I've got asymptotes here on the y-axis and here on the x-axis. This one here on the y-axis happens because we cannot make x equal 0. And this one here on the x-axis happens because I can never have 0 as the outcome or the output of the function. So now we're going to crank things up a little bit. This one has got an asymptote that's here at -1. So that's telling me that I can't put -1 into my hyperbola. So this time it's going to have this form. Y is equal to some constant divided by x plus 1. And we can see that I've still got an asymptote here, so there isn't a vertical shift. Right, I need a blobby point again, and this time it's going to be 2, 1. I substitute in, and I get 1 is equal to k divided by 2 plus 1. Right, so I'm taking that x value and I'm chucking it in here. I'm taking the y value and I'm putting it in here. So solving that gives me 3 equals k. So the equation of that line is y is equal to 3 divided by x plus 1. Right, so look what's happened in here. This curve has shifted from being one with the basic form of asymptotes to being one unit that way. Right, so the asymptote has moved from being the y-axis to being here at x equals -1. And you can see that coming through in the denominator. So it fits exactly the same pattern we had with quadratics and cubics and exponentials. If we want to do a horizontal translation, it's going to take on this form with the +1. Right, next one. Right, this time we've got, let's see, well, we've got no horizontal shift, but we've got a vertical shift. So the form of the equation is going to be this. Y is equal to k divided by x plus 2. Right, so let's think again about why it's divided by x. I can't put in x equals 0. Right, that's what this vertical asymptote is telling me. So let's find a blobby point. Again, quite hard to do, just like it is in the theta book. This one here looks good. Right, so that's 3 and 1, but it's actually a bit dodgy to do that because it could be a wee bit off and we just can't tell. But that's the point that I'll use here. So we get 1 is equal to k divided by 3 plus 2. So subtracting this from both sides gives me -1 is equal to k on 3, and k is equal to -3. Right, so my equation is this. Y equals -3 divided by x plus 2. Okay, notice again that the branches are in this quadrant and this quadrant, so that fits with this number being negative. Okay, the next graph has got 2 shifts in it. I'm going to speed it up a little bit now. So the form is going to be y is equal to k divided by x minus 2, right, because my vertical asymptote is here, plus 3. So I just need a blobby point. I've got one here, and it's at 6, 4. So I'm going to chuck that in and get 4 is equal to k divided by 6 minus 2 plus 3. All right, so this is back to just a little bit of, I guess, year 9 algebra every time. We get 4 minus 3 is equal to k divided by 4. So 4 times 1 is equal to k. What a mess. Sorry about that. So k is equal to 4. Now let's write that neatly up here. So we get y is equal to 4 divided by x minus 2 plus 3. So notice the order I'm doing stuff in, right? I'm using my asymptotes first to get the 2 shifts, and then I'm getting my scaly factor thing. Right, next one. Well, that looks a lot like the last one. Let's check. Nope, they are different. So same kind of idea. Here's my blobby point, and my asymptotes are here, and this one's at 1. So the equation will be y equals k over x plus 1 plus 2 for the vertical shift. And the point that I'm going to use is 2, 3. So substituting, I get 3 is equal to k over 2 plus 1 plus 2, giving me 1 equals k over 3. K is equal to 3. So my equation is y equals 3 over x plus 1 plus 2. Next one. two asymptotes that are not on the axes again. So we've got y is equal to k over x plus 1, and it's got to shift downwards by 2 units, so minus 2. Right, so there's my vertical shift down showing up here, and my horizontal shift, oh that's wrong actually, sorry guys, forget that. This is x minus 1, because my shift is over that way, right? So my vertical asymptote is at positive 1, which means I can't put 1 in the bottom line here. Now I need a blobby point. The blobby point I'm going to use is 4, negative 1. Solving, we get negative 1 is equal to k over 4 minus 1, take away 2. I really need more room here. Let's clean this up. So negative 1 plus 2 gives me 1 is equal to k over 3. K equals 3. So my final equation is this: y equals 3 over x minus 1 minus 2. Right, so that's all for now. Just make sure you know the steps that we're going to follow. I would say they go like this. So identify vertical shift. Secondly, identify horizontal shift. And thirdly, use blobby point to find k. So the general form for a hyperbola is going to be this: y is equal to k over x minus a plus b. Okay, that's all for now. Please go to Google Classroom and check for the values of the points that I'm going to give you to help you doing Theta 503, and just leave me any comments if anything's wrong with the video.